Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your fashionably late hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Even though spring is almost here, I say almost because it's still cold as fuck here, but regardless, a couple of new anime have already premiered, yet we still have to do our season finale. Kinda, since just like this whole review season, we're gonna do things a bit differently, but more about that in a moment, in The Quick and the Dead. So start putting away your sled and ice skates, get ready for them allergies to hit you like a truck, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back.
I get the picture. They try to hit you. They try to kick you when you're down and out.
Alright, here we are in The Quick and the Dead, and usually this is where we just do very quick reviews, kinda shotgun, quick-fire reviews of stuff we either didn't fully finish, or we finished but didn't feel like talking about too much, or it's a season 2 review of a continued season of a new core that only one of us watched. So if we did a full review of it, that would result in us just talking about the plot for a very long time. So we're trying to keep it brisk here. But since we won't really have a full review this episode, 2 of the reviews might go at least a bit longer. The reason why we don't have a full review this episode is kind of... yeah, I didn't know what to review as a as the final thing. I thought like Tagged Up Destiny, but then I heard that show completely derailed by the end, or not completely, but went really off the rails in a bad way. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I check out Heike's story, because that's adaptation by a good studio of a very famous old Japanese story. So this seems like something one should watch. And then I watched a couple of episodes, and I just couldn't warm up to the art style, and I was like, nah, no, I can't. Sorry. So that went out the window, and so we didn't have that much. Luckily, a last-minute thing happened this week that I can talk about, as well as my other review, and John has 3 short reviews lined up as well, so we at least got a bit of content here for you. And after that, we're gonna have a very short best of the season section, because, you know, we only had 1 full review, and maybe we'll pick one from this litter here as well, but who knows. It has been a weird review seasons, because we have basically up till now only done 1 full episode. The other one was a special where we talked about the anime awards. So yeah, don't worry, guys. Things will go.
My show of the season was the Anime Awards.
Yeah.
Said no one ever.
I was about to say, who would say that? Next season, things are gonna go back to normal, because we have a bunch of shows lined up that we want to talk about. So don't worry about that. We're gonna probably have our usual number of review episodes. But sometimes weird shit happens, and sometimes you just don't have enough shows to talk about. So yeah, that's how it happened. Anyway, John, do you want to talk about the first short thing that you, I guess, finished?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
First one was the aquatope of white sand, and
Yes.
that was that story about this girl whose grandfather is closing down the aquarium they've had forever and ever in their family, and this other girl who was an aspiring actress, and she sort of ran away from the job very coincidentally down about as far south as you can go in Japan to Okinawa, where this aquarium is. And it was just this, one of your coming of age stories. I mean, it was handled by PA Works, and we've talked about them before. They do some good work. I had it in my head that with some of the imagery that was going on, that this show was going to go like wildly off the rails, like some of their other shows did.
I remember that from the sneak peek, yeah. And you made, I don't know if you made the illusions, or if it sounded to me like this was going in the vein of Iroduku, whatever that show was called.
The World in Colors?
Yeah, right.
But, it had a little splash of mysticism in there, but it didn't go crazy, which was kind of pleasant, you know,
Mhm.
because sometimes when they go a little off the rails, they can't seem to
Get back on
find a
him.
good they can't seem to find a good balance.
Yeah.
And this show was fine, but I don't feel like there's a ton to really tackle that I feel like tackling with the discussion about it. Because the story is just like the main conceit of the story is that, you know, life happens and you got to move on. Yeah, and it's about trying to find your place in outside of your comfort zone. And one of the girls goes from being like all about knowing everything there is to know about all the fish in the aquarium and wanting to show off her knowledge and teach people and get them into it too. So, you know, trying to share her knowledge and be like, hey, isn't marine life cool? I love it. You should love it too. And that's nice. That's neat. But then when the aquarium shuts down, she has to go to this new, larger, newfangled facility with all sorts of, you know, bells and whistles and tech. She ends up having a different job, and it's more of like a event coordination gig, and the story becomes all about trying to grow into that and find her place with that job. So I feel like it's, you know, a really good story about, you know, trying to find yourself again. But, you know, it's a little meandering, you know.
Hmm.
But it's fine. It's a very breezy summer vacation story, like in the most literal sense of the words. Um,
I
and
mean,
you know, it's very pretty too. So if you're looking for something like that, it's a good watch.
if meandering is not necessarily a bad thing,
Oh no, no,
something
no.
something like the Flying Witch, you could call meandering in a way, but it still doesn't lose sight of its characters or what it's trying to do, which is kind of put you in a good place and also do some character development maybe. And
Yeah,
if Aquatope did that thing and did it well enough, and you stayed engaged, then yeah, that's I guess all you could ask from a show like that. And it
yeah,
seems like you weren't disappointed at least.
yeah. I mean, I stayed engaged enough to watch it to the end, and you know, I liked most of the characters. There were a couple side characters that I could have done without,
Hmm.
but that's
Aren't
fine.
there always?
That is true, but yeah, it's a good show. Again very very pretty. It's depicts marine life and the aquariums and everything about and the day to day of operating an aquarium in pretty decent detail. So if that's your jam, you know, it's this a pretty good show to chill and vibe to.
So how big was the aquarium? Were there just like only fish, or did we get some cute seals, some dolphins? What about the sea life? How much variation was in there?
Well, you know, obviously you had, you know, your fish. I think there were some in the smaller aquariums, some crabs were not. They had a couple of penguins. I love penguins.
Penguins are
So
very
that was
nice, yes.
nice. That was nice to see. Part of the story later on becomes about the marine life from the old aquarium basically finding new homes.
Hmm.
And one of the penguins makes its way to the new aquarium, and it has to kind of adapt to living with these other, you know, unfamiliar birds. And you know, the of all the characters, this little penguin has its own subplot for like a couple of episodes, and it's and, you know, you like to see
That's
that.
great.
It's nice.
That's fantastic. Actually, that sounds really good. So
And
yeah, good
one of
idea.
them, yeah, you know, a couple of them, you know, you see like one of them has trouble with its slipper. One of them has like a little bit of a growth on one of its paws. So
Oh
it's like, you
no.
know, you see that part of it too. So
So it's very realistic in that regard, and tries to not be like, "Hey, here's only cute animals," but no, this is actually how this works. So not a
yeah,
word comedy, but kind of what Japan sometimes, what anime sometimes does is like, hey, no, here are the actual jobs that these people do, which I love to do with the countryside shows, where it's like, hey, please move out of the cities again.
yeah. But you know, there were some episodes where yeah, they did have to call in a veterinarian to help out the animals. So you know,
Mm.
there you go.
Cool. Yeah, sounds neat. Sounds like a show if you want to go and have some, if you want to wind down. Doesn't seem to be a bad place to start.
For certain.
All right. Okay. The first thing I'm going to talk about is not necessarily something to wind down, although I feel very relaxed when I watched Jujutsu Kaisen 0 in the movie theater close to me.
Oh, I didn't realize you had seen that.
Yeah, it was a special showing, and only a couple of showings this week in subbed, and then I think one more dubbed. Why would I watch that? So I checked out the sub version on Monday, and boy, I already posted this on Twitter, but it bears repeating. Morbius could only dream of a theater that packed.
Really?
It was really full. Yeah, John. There were a lot of people watching Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Like,
it's so weird because the last few anime movies that I've seen in theaters, I think only like 3 of them had like a really packed audience, and those were the first My Hero movie, Dragon Ball Super, and then when all of us went to see Promare.
Yes, Promare was pretty packed.
And then the other 3, the second My Hero movie, I think it was like me and like 2 other people. Oh God, Weathering with You, it was me and 1 other person in the theater.
It sounds like a nice atmosphere thing, right?
Oh no, it was great. You know, I could just sit there and relax and be like, yeah, and just take in the movie and, you know.
I feel like I've always, every time I go to an anime, and I haven't been to that many anime things in the movie theater. I've seen the first My Hero Academia movie. I've seen Dragon Ball Broly, which was a fucking blast in the movie theater. I gotta tell you, one of the best movie theater experiences I ever had. I'm forgetting one aside from Jujutsu Kaisen 0. But yeah, every time, Promare, of course. But there was also one other one here in recent time that I watched, but I forgot which one. Anyway, anytime I did that, I had a really good time, and there were more people than I expected. Not as many as this time, because this time it was really a lot, which I think is partially also because things are really starting to open up again here, which is not necessarily a good thing, because our government is kind of like, well, we tried, nobody listens to us, so we're just gonna say fuck it and open everything, and just all the mask mandates are gone, and all the testing and stuff. It's all slowly by the beginning of May it will all be gone. So it's like, okay, all right, sure.
Yeah, that'll work out.
Yeah, we have like the highest numbers of new cases in all of Europe, I think, every day. So it's fantastic. Anyway, hey, I'm triple vaccinated, so at least there's that. But yeah, that's a different topic. But I think that's one of the reasons why there were so many people, because now it's more comfortable to go to a movie theater again. We still have to wear the mask there right now. Like I said, it's probably going to disappear by May, but everything else is kind of, they don't ask for test certificates anymore, so they're definitely more people. I don't know, Monday is not necessarily a movie-going day here, I guess, but yeah, lots of people. And the thing with anime crowds, was my experience anyway so far, is that there's always a good atmosphere. You don't necessarily have people who make fun of the movie or just be like, oh, what is this shit? This is garbage. Because usually, for these kind of movies, the people who are in there know what they're in there for. Like, they know what's coming towards them. They know why they go there. They know why they paid their ticket. Right. They're not there by accident. Which, with a lot of other general movies, it's just like, you know, you're Batman, you're, I don't know, Marvel movie, you're a standard action flick and stuff. People just go there because it's there, and it's like, hey, there's a new action movie, let's go to a movie theater. I didn't do any research. I don't know what that movie is about. Let's just see it, right? With anime movies, I feel like that doesn't happen. First of all, because there's only a couple of showings. Second, because no general audience tends to go for these movies still, I think. That's my estimation anyway. So everyone in there, like, are fucking super nerds who chuckle at the stupid Crunchyroll pre-ads. Like, oh, look at this shit. Why are they showing a trailer for the Detective Conan movie? What is this? Like, we were like, they know their stuff, and it's funny. It's so, you almost you feel like you were among your peers, I guess, and the people also act like that. It was a rowdy crowd. Like before the movie started, there was a lot of talking. As soon as the movie started, everyone shut the fuck up and watched the movie. And it was great.
That was not my experience with the first My Hero movie, but
okay.
That's right. No, I also saw the second My Hero movie, and that was just like me and like one other person in the theater as well.
Okay. So for anime movies, I've never had any problem really with people keeping on talking throughout the movie, heavily reacting to certain scenes, right? Like in Promare, we had a lot of people clapping and yelling at, the standout moments, but that is great. And that's the kind of response I like from an audience. But what grinds my gears is if people like keep on, talking to each other through the movie about stuff that isn't even related to the movie necessarily, or if people check their phones constantly, or if there's always that one motherfucker who explains the whole movie to his girlfriend or his pal or whatever, because for some reason he values their intelligence so little that he thinks he needs to explain the whole plot to them, even though the plot is not complicated because it's a fucking Marvel movie. So, or Jujutsu Kaisen in this case, but nobody talked during this movie. So that always ticks me the fuck off, because it's like, hey, if you wanna narrate this movie, watch it at home. Like, do a podcast, you asshole. But anyway. Yeah, so that doesn't happen with Jujutsu Kaisen 0 to, actually getting to the review. It's just, I love our small tangents, so we don't get to talk about a movie-going experience that often, because anime movies are not in cinemas that often. But yeah.
It's been 2 years since we could pretty much safely go to one.
Yeah, exactly, that too. So yeah, cool movie, absolutely. So this is a prequel, as the 0 might indicate. And I don't even know if it's directed by Sung-woo Park. I didn't look it up. It's definitely done by MAPPA. And you can imagine MAPPA on a movie budget is a good thing. A very good thing. So the thing with shonen movies is usually they go for, and My Hero Academia did that too, mostly, they usually go for side stories that don't really have any impact on the main plot, and are just like, hey, you could watch this without knowing the series really, and you would kind of get something out of it. But it also, if you watch only the series and don't watch the movie, you're not really missing out. The positive to that is you can enjoy either on its own merits. The negative side of that usually is the movies tend to be more or less successful when it comes to their enclosed little stories, where it's like, hey, we got this one off bad guy that is in here, and usually doesn't have, because these movies also tend to be on the shorter side, usually doesn't have that much going for them, right? That bad guy. And there is not really any great character development happening to the characters we know from the TV series, because they, that side story, it's not in the manga, and they want to keep the actual character development usually for the TV series, or, because that's adapted from the manga. So it's just like, it's a fun side thing that is happening, usually with cool action in it and everything, but that's all you're gonna get out of this. So Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is a bit of an outlier because it's a prequel, and I think that story also had either a manga adaptation that came afterwards or in between the actual series, or it was a one-off manga that started the whole thing. I'm not sure about the origin of this story. But yeah, it's basically what it is mostly about is an event that was talked about in the actual series in passing, and that is the Night of the 100 Demons, or what it's called. You remember one of the main bad guys from the series, maybe Geto, who's one of the main instigators of what is happening in these first two cores of Jujutsu Kaisen. He's the guy with the slick back black hair. Yeah. Right, he's the monk guy, and who hangs out with the asshole with the silver hair. I forgot his name. Who likes to manipulate everyone. That curse that got a human form. Yeah. So that whole group around Geto were the main antagonists of the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen, but we didn't really know what Geto's drive was. We know he planned something, and we knew he did the thing, the demon, the Night of the 100 Demon thing in Tokyo and in Kyoto, I think. And we didn't really know what that was. They only talked about it in passing in the show. We just knew he did a bad thing, and one of Jujutsu Kaisen's of Jujutsu Tech stopped him. So this movie is that story. It's basically like a full prequel, and it tells you the story of basically what Geto is all about, and and the main character of the story is Yuta, who is a guy who it seems got cursed by his childhood friend. When they were childhood friends, they were kind of sweethearts in a way, and they promised each other to marry. They promised to marry each other when they grew up and everything. You know, the cute childhood crush and stuff like that. And then she got hit by a car and died. And oh yeah, this is full spoilers, by the way. So just saying, you know, Wicked the Dead usually is full spoilers. And then basically she got attached to him as a curse, as a giant demon thingy that basically protects him from harm, but also repels all people that try to get close to him. Rika is her name. So, of course, he was an outsider, and he was very dangerous and hurt a lot of people, especially people who tried to bully him, which, you know, not crying over those guys, but anyway, he gets then recruited by Gojo into Jujutsu Tech, and basically hangs out with some of the characters we already know from the first season, with Panda, with Toge, with Maki. They are in there, so it's not like a completely new cast. It's mostly just familiars, really. Like, some of them are reduced to very small cameos, like Todo appears in the final fight for like a second. And some of the other second years are also there. And of course, the first years are not there, like Megumi or Nobara. They're not there because they enter the school when Yuji enters the school in the series. So of course they wouldn't be seen here. But you know, all the second years and third year students are there, and of course the teachers and everything. And yeah, so Yuta is, you know, the first half, I would say, of the movie is basically Yuta learning to control Rika, control his powers and everything. Don't let them get out of control, and fight some curses. Grow fond and grow closer to the other students. Go, you know, become friends with Toga, become friends with Panda, and with Maki, most importantly, I guess, because they got kind of a romance thing going, I guess, which complicates things in regards to his fucking demon girlfriend. And then Geto enters the picture. And I wouldn't say it's far-fetched to say Geto is just Magneto. Mm-hmm. When he apparently, that's right now, we don't know why he thinks that way. They keep that still unclear and in shadow, but it's made very clear. First of all, thing we didn't know before it, I think, is that he and Gojo were actually good friends, best friends, before shit went south. And also, right now, his main motivation basically is kill all the fucking humans, let the Jujutsu people, the Jujutsu sorcerers, take their rightful place as the superior beings in society, right? They are the Homo superior, and the Homo sapiens can fuck right off, and he calls them monkeys. So, yeah, he's basically Magneto. That's what he is. And I assume he has made...
Is that you?
He probably has made some traumatic experience, and they kind of do some flashbacks that allude to that, but they haven't gone into detail yet. So that's interesting. So we actually get filled on what might be the motivation of one of our main bad guys from the show in this movie, and not, you know, in the TV series yet, which was pretty interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think for that alone it was worth watching it. The first half of the movie takes a bit to get going because they front-loaded with, like, you know, Yuta's origin story. Then Yuta gets sent on his first assignment with Maki, then on his second assignment with Toge, where he actually learns to work together with one of the Jujutsu sorcerers. And that takes quite a while and feels like maybe treading water a bit there because, you know, it takes its sweet time. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I expected the first half to be more action-packed than it was. Because, you remember Jujutsu Kaisen. There was a lot of shit going down there. So, yeah. So I was a bit surprised about the slow pacing of the movie in the first half. But then the second half happens where Geto just appears on the school grounds and is like, hey, I declare war on you, on all of you. And on the night of Christmas this year, I'm just gonna unleash 100 demons in Tokyo and in Kyoto, and or at least 100. I don't know how many it was actually. And if you don't stop them, there will be hell everywhere. So la la la. And as slow as the first half of that movie was, holy shit, the second half. I was like, man, is this even Songwoo Park? Is did Mappa even throw a lot of money at this, or a lot of personnel and shit like that? Oh boy, did they ever. The second half of the movie is such a fucking action blowout, it's ridiculous. There's so many cool fucking fights in there, and so many characters we haven't seen fight yet, especially the teachers. They have some really cool shit going on. There's some badass scene where fucking Gojo goes nuts on one of the crew from Geto. So if you want to see a great action movie on the big screen, Jujutsu Kaisen definitely is there for you to watch. And there's not much more to say about that, really, because that's most of what it is. It's a really cool action movie with a nice little love story sprinkled in between, you know, and a bit of story about redemption and trying to find your confidence back in life and try to forgive yourself and everything. And Yuta is a cool, compelling character, you know, a bit standard in some regards. I think he also has the same voice actor as Shinji from Evangelion, which makes sense in the way he behaves in the beginning, because he's severely depressed, of course. But yeah, he's very different. The funny thing is, his name also starts with U, just like Yuji's. So they're supposed to be, you know, here's this guy, here's this guy. They're supposed to mirror each other, be two sides of the same coin, I guess. But Yuta is a completely different character, at least in the beginning. If you remember Yuji, he's very forward. He's very energetic. He's, you know, he's a guy you can become friends with very easily. That's one of the plot points of the first season, I guess. But Yuta is a very different person because, you know, he's more of a, especially in the beginning, he's more of a, I don't know, soft-spoken, very passive person, and also, you know, has this giant looming monster that pushes everyone away that gets too close to him. So very different attitude towards everyone. So it's interesting to see him interact with the characters we've already seen interact with Yuji. And I can't wait for him to appear in the series proper and him and Yuji to interact. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. And I definitely recommend, if they don't adapt that movie also into the next season, which Demon Slayer did kinda, but since this is a prequel, they probably won't do that. Not sure. Might be. Maybe they do an in-between arc where they just adapt Zero into a short mini TV series. That can happen, and that would work, actually. I think you could do that in like 4 episodes or something, probably. Maybe 5. So, yeah, sure. Why not? But even if they don't do that, I would really recommend you. So everyone who listens to this and watched Jujutsu Kaisen, I would recommend checking out that movie as well, because it's kind of integral to some of the stuff that's happening in the series. I mean, they're probably going to elaborate on everything that the movie said, or also in the series as well. But it doesn't hurt watching it, I'm pretty sure, because there's really more plot-related stuff in there than I expected. It's not a side story, really. It's a prequel. It's a proper prequel. It's, you know, there is character development for the characters in there that you already know from the series and I didn't expect. And, you know, they retread some ground there, sure, for Maki, I guess, as well. But it's well done. It's really well done. It makes sense. It doesn't feel like it's, you know, just repeating the same thing. It's just like, oh yeah, that's what she's about. And it's interesting to see her interact with Yuta because that makes the way he reacts to her and then how she reacts to him makes a lot of sense for her character. And yeah, it's really cool. Great movie. It's a lot of fun. I recommend you checking it out. If it's still in theaters, try to catch it. If it's not anymore, try to catch it once it's released on Blu-ray or on streaming services. Maybe it will come to Crunchyroll, stuff like that. Who knows? But yeah, definitely a really good watch and worth seeing it on the big screen.
Cool.
Yeah. John, what is your next thing? Unless you want to say something about Jujutsu Kaisen 0, or if you intend to watch it.
I mean, I would like to be able to watch it. I'm just still a little gun shy about going to a movie theater, even though things are now slightly better than they have been over the past 2 years.
Yeah, I can totally understand that.
So maybe when it hits streaming or Blu-ray or whatever, maybe that's when I'll finally watch it. I got other stuff I want to watch too, man.
Yeah, sure.
like I think the Sonic the Hedgehog, the second Sonic movie is out, and I still haven't watched the first. So
you should get on that. I mean, that is on streaming services, definitely on Blu-rays.
Do you want to know something?
Yeah, sure.
I bought it on 4K last holiday.
So get to it then. It's a good movie. It's a surprisingly good movie.
And I just haven't made the time.
Take your time. Take your time tonight. Watch Sonic the movie tonight.
We'll see. My next was Yuki Yuna is a Hero, the Great Blooming Chapter. We hadn't really talked about this show because it sort of predates the creation of this podcast by a little bit. If I were to talk about it, I feel like it would take a long time, so I'm just gonna gloss over it a bit. It was very much in the vein of magical girls make Faustian deals like Madoka, because that is the nearest comparison that everyone will make, and I will as well.
From what I've heard, it didn't seem as depressing as Madoka.
I mean, it almost gets there, but then in the end, it sort of reminds you, hey, we can make things all right again. It's like, okay, all right, okay. And that's basically the first 2 seasons where things get really, really, really bad, only for, y'all know that meme, attack and dethrone God. That's literally the plot. Then we get
it's a Persona game.
I mean, yes.
Or Shin Megami Tensei, I guess.
Yes. Then we get to this, the Great Bloom Chapter, which is the 3rd season, and they did some weird stuff where they kind of flash back to a different part of the series. So this is all based off of a series of light novels, and there were other LNs that spun off of it, and one of them was a sub-series called Mebuki Kusunoki is a Hero, which is like this story that sort of takes place kind of between the first 2 seasons of the show, and then they decided to sort of insert it here as flashbacks, and it doesn't work. It's really confusing going back and forth, and it just doesn't work. And I was just sort of like watching this, constantly trying to grasp what they were trying to do with the execution of the story, and sort of being like, and what? And the way it jumps back and forth was just like, not good. It wasn't great. But I will say that, this was produced by Studio Gokumi, who they've had their hands in a few shows. I don't think any of that we've mentioned, but a few that I've watched, like Kiniro Mosaic, which is, a very breezy slice of life show. They've done some in-between stuff on some other shows like Aquarion, Excel World, Konosuba, Love Live. So, they've done some things. Saki, if you like Mahjong. I still don't to this day understand how Mahjong works, but I guess it's like poker.
Okay.
But
if you say so.
But they do pretty good animation work. It's very kinetic and high energy.
I've seen clips of the show. It looks great.
Season 3 does a little bit of CG that's a little kind of whack, but it's not super always in the way, so it's easy enough to overlook. And I didn't realize something until this third season, that the music in this series was done by one Keiichi Okabe. You might know that name if you played this little series of games called Nier.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
So there's this one song that was playing, and I was like, hold on, wait a minute. And I had to go look it up, and I was like, yeah, that's just a Nier song. Pretty much.
Wait a goddamn minute.
It was like the weird revelation I had during Symphogear GX when I was like, wait, is this a Wild Arms? And it turns out, yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing about this season is that they kind of rehash plot points that they had used previously. I don't know if the author was just low on ideas, and I don't want to say that to be mean, but when you're starting to see a lot of the same things going on, dude, dude. So I guess this was a fine send-off for this series, as much as it was, because the whole conceit of it was, let us break the curse so humanity can actually be free. You mean we weren't free before? No, you weren't. So it was, I don't know.
You sound very mixed.
Yeah, I mean, for really liking the first 2 seasons, this last season was kind of like, it wasn't the best.
Well, is it the last season, or will there be more?
As far as I can tell, yes, this should be the end! Exclamation point. I mean, they did everything there was to do in killing God. And here's the weird thing. They sort of did the flashback thing in the second season as well, and they made it work there?
Okay.
I don't know. Storytelling is hard, guys.
Yeah, no shit. A lot of people fail at it.
So, I'm sure if you watched and enjoyed the first 2 series, you'll like this as well. But I have my weird sideways criticisms for it. And, again, please don't misinterpret my criticisms as saying I hated it, because I feel like you can get on the same page as this. We criticize things because we want them to be the best they can be.
Sure, yeah.
So I feel
unless
like...
it's Shield Hero.
But it's coming back next season, aren't you glad?
I'm glad that I don't have to watch it.
You're gonna watch it. He's gonna watch it.
No. I already take that stinker. I don't need that in my life anymore. Thank you. Isn't it enough that the fucking trailer for the Funimation Crunchyroll merger ends on that fucking show? Like, if that isn't a bad omen for things to come, then I don't fucking know.
Please watch Shield Hero. Please watch Shield Hero.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I enjoyed the third season of Yuki Yuna ***.
Or Asterisk War, yeah, I know that show.
Yes, that also exists. But it was okay. It was firmly okay. I wish it could have executed a little better on its plot and been a little more solid on what it was trying to go for. It happens. It is what it is.
Yes, and sometimes you get another season to make up for that, like we got with Symphogear. After AXE, we got XV, and that...
Yeah, because AXE was clearly like, yeah, to be continued, It was nudging you pretty hard. But yeah, I mean, as far as I know, wait, am I incorrect? What is Hero History Apocrypha?
It sounds like a Fate show.
it's a spin-off of a spin-off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe there's more, but as far as they were trying to convey in the anime, the story is concluded. The main story. I guess there's other side things from the other side story, but the main scenario quest is ended, and we're waiting for the patch for the next story. That's an FF14 joke.
I got it. Got it. Yeah, but anyway, I mean, if that story seems like it has reached its logical conclusion, then they shouldn't, overstay their welcome. If they try to extend stories beyond their natural flow, that never works in the story's favor usually. So
yeah, because the main story is Yuna's. Then there were the side stories with Sumi, Wakaba, and Mabuki. Sumi and Wakaba were kind of rolled in with season 2, and then it looks like Hero History Apocrypha is kind of like a spin-off of Wakaba's story. Like it's a short spin-off, like a 3-part thing. I don't light novels, man. You know what? At least it's not an isekai. At least it's not that.
We don't ask for much, but at least that.
I can't tell you, looking at live chart, and I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again because it bears repeating, how many shows I click that skip button on because one of the genres either says isekai or the format is light novel.
See, the thing is, there's one light novel that I didn't even get a full adaptation on, and that is Full Metal Panic. So
there are exceptions to the rule.
Yes. So, and Invisible Victory was okay. I wished we have gotten a sequel. I mean, it didn't look super great as compared to the previous seasons, but it was alright. I would have liked to see more. Oh well. Let's see. Maybe one day we'll get more Full Metal Panic. Anyway.
So that's it for that. What you got next?
The other thing I got for today is the second season of 86, which I watched. So let me see what I can talk about. I mean, again, full spoilers, people, because this is a second season review, kinda shorter maybe, but I'll try to extend a bit on it. So the first season ended kinda on maybe most of our cast dying. Yeah. So they get thrown into this war thing. I mean, they have been at war with the Legion the entire time, that autonomous Legion of AIs that got built by one country and then went crazy and took over and destroyed that country and then started attacking all the other countries. The stuff that will happen to us in the future as well. But also, the story was about this crew of kind of child soldiers, kind of in the vein of Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, but not as much mercenaries, more like slaves that were forced into the war as cannon fodder by the ruling class of the Republic of Magnolia, who were, populated by very racist people who decided that the people that didn't have silver, white skin and silver hair should maybe just die in the war. So, I wonder what that is based on, relates to. But that's
pick at this point.
Yeah, true that. Oh shit. Anyway, they and those were the 86. They were from the 86th district of that republic and were kind of shunned and were treated like, human garbage basically, and just things to die in the war. And we had this one character who was proper citizen of the republic and also a major in the army, Lena, who kind of felt like who was trying to change things, who was trying to earn this 86 the respect they deserve. Yeah, that was basically it. She was trying not to act like the other people in the army and not just treat the 86ers as tools of war, right? And she had a tough road in front of her, because the 86ers, being treated like tools of war the entire lives, also weren't really fond of their oppressors, understandably so, and considered them, like, each of the two factions consider each other as pigs for different reasons. So they weren't really warming up to her. They weren't too fond of her. They considered her called her a princess pig or something like that. But slowly she warmed up to them, they warmed up to her, and they started relying on each other, and they started to trust her, which was like the main drive of the first season of that show. It was basically like, hey, here are these two very different factions, and this one person from this one trying to change thing has a very good heart, Lena is just a kick-ass character. Let me just go out and say that here. She doesn't appear that much in the second season, but when she does, boy, does she kick ass just by being there and being the person that she is. And she does that in the first season already, but even more so in the second season. It's ridiculous. It's just like... she's one of those characters where it's like, if something badass happens on screen, it's like, oh, Lena can't be far away. She must be somewhere here, because she's probably the reason that this happens. And so she's an amazing character, and I think I love to see her on screen. She's really well written, and even if she wasn't that much in this second season, she has some really good scenes in it. But yeah, first season was chiefly about her and about the processor of the 86ers from the Spearhead Squadron, which she was assigned to, and his name was Shin, and that, very cold person, very friendly to his comrades, but also very reserved when it came to other people. And he seemed to be like a kind of walking dead person in some aspects, not very emotional and stuff like that. And he had like this emblem on his war machine, on his on his juggernaut, which are these spider-like mechs that every one of the 86ers fights in. And which is like the headless gravedigger, and his name was, what was his name? Was it Gravedigger? Something like that. Undertaker. That was his nickname. So
did he have a partner named Paul Bearer?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's But what his shtick was basically, you see, when one of his people got killed or was close to dying on the battlefield, really like a bloody mess in a damaged juggernaut or whatever, he went over to them and gave them the mercy bullet, and then collected their dog tags or a part of their machinery of their juggernaut, and basically etched their name in it, and then kept that in a box as a memory, and I will never, in the sense of that he will never forget their names. Names are very important in the show. It's like one of the characters has like this big burst out against Lena when she is really sad and taken aback when one of the characters dies, and one of the squadron says, "You don't even remember her real name. You just call us by nicknames. How are we supposed to trust you? How can you think that we? How can we think that we even are meaning anything to you if you don't call us by our real names?" So from that moment on, because she feels very guilty because of that, and she says, that person is right, she makes an effort to remember everyone's name, writes them down, and remembers them. And that's one of the key scenes in the first, one of the key turnaround scenes in the first season. And that comes back at the end of this season in a very cool way that I fucking loved. It's really good. But yeah, the main drive of the first season was her character development and her growing closer to Spearhead Squadron. And the other one was Shin, who I didn't go into that in the review of the first season because that would have been spoilers. Shin's main plot drive, which we get filled on not too late, but I said in last third maybe, or second half at least, is like 3 ways fucked up and then something. Because first of all, he had a brother that got killed on the battlefield, who is also related to Lena in a way, because as it later turns out, he saved her when her helicopter got shot down with her parents, I think. He was one of the people who saved her. So, yeah. But Shin's brother got killed. What was his name? I forgot it. I got it written down here in my show notes, and I will get to it later. But yeah, his brother got killed by the Legion, and he always goes on about, I have to find my brother and kill him. So what is he? His brother is already dead. What is he talking about? So it turns out what the Legion does is, and this is one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in anime. The Legion, since it's basically a giant swarm AI in a way, collects the heads of dead soldiers and uses them as cloud quantum computers, basically, because the brain is a very powerful computer. So it scans their brains and basically creates ghosts of these characters and puts them into mechs to use them again as tools of war. So they can't escape. They can't escape the war even in death. That's so fucked up.
Yo, what?
That is the most fucked up thing I've seen in a long while, and that's what that show turns into in its first season, in the second half of its first season. So Shin's main drive is finding the ghost of his dead brother, finding the machine that he now commands, and tries to kill that machine and the basically ghost AI of his brother, who also, by the way, tried to kill Shin because when he was still alive, because he made him held him responsible for the death of his of their parents, which I won't go into now. It's a bit complicated, but still, their relationship was already majorly fucked up. Before this,
sounds like it.
And now the redemption thing is Shin tries to find his brother, his kind of dead brother, and tries to kill him again. And it's so fucking ridiculous. But it's really well done, surprisingly. I never felt like, oh my god, this is so dumb, it is so over the top. It is over the top, but it's executed really well. So I was really engaged in the first season when that shit went down. And that's kind of where the first season ends on, is basically the big confrontation between Shin and his brother. And then stuff happens, and it seems like all the characters from the Spearhead Squadron die. And I think the last thing that we see is Lena going and writing down their names again and being like on a grave or shit like that, right? Or looking at their names. But turns out they're not dead. And that's where the second season opens up. They got rescued by the Federacy of Jihad. And Jihad is basically the kingdom, whatever, that created the Legion originally. But that kingdom, after being destroyed by the Legion, I guess, got, or partially destroyed, got overthrown by some of its citizens. And those citizens kind of created a new government and tried to create a new life, and also fighting the Legion while they're at it. So that's where our main characters wake up in. And Jihad is a very different country than what the Republic of Sun Magnolia is, because everyone is equal, everyone is treated kind of with respect, at least on the surface. That's what it seems like. And basically our characters, because they're still children, get kind of adopted by the president or prime minister, I'm not sure, of that country, and can live in this big ass house and for their first time ever probably lead very normal lives. And that's kind of cool start to the season, because we see these characters in an environment that we've never seen them before. And, you know, they're really taken out of their comfort zone, I guess, because they're not used to this. Like, they do normal jobs, go to normal places, make new friends. And for the first time in their lives, probably, they are treated like equal human beings. The problem is they can't really let go of their past. And the burden put on their shoulders by their fallen comrades, kinda. So eventually, of course, they decide to return to the battlefield. They're like, hey, we've seen everything this place has to offer, but we feel like the best thing we can do right now is still fight for this country. If the war ever ends, which they can't really fathom in their head yet, especially not Shin, for different reasons, but the others are kind of getting there, and they're like, hey, if this war ever ends, then now we have something we can imagine we can do after the war, and that we can work towards, and that we can think of maybe enjoying and that there is a life outside of death and destruction and war for us. And that's really nice to see, but they're not there yet. And yeah, Shin, especially after finally being able to kill the ghost of his brother, he needs a new drive. And that, I guess that drive also comes in him returning to the army, now this time the army of Jihad. But also a very important part now of his life comes in the form of the former Empress of Jihad, that before it was overthrown by its citizens and became, the Federacy, it was the Kingdom of Jihad, and the last member of the royal family, I guess, still very much a young child, also got kind of adopted, and, they pretended like she died, so she isn't hunted down or anything, but she got rescued by the now head of the Federacy, Ernst Zimmermann, who also takes in our main characters as adopted kids. And Frederica, who is the Empress, and Shin kind of become like this brother, little sister thing. They become like siblings. Like they very quickly they get attached to each other, and it's very organic. It's very well done. And eventually, when they return to the battlefield, Frederica is kind of like the very smarty girl. Like, she talks too much like an adult for how old she probably is. But I never felt like she got annoying. Her voice actress maybe is a bit too squeaky. But aside from that, like, she's got some really interesting and important things to say to our characters, especially to Shin. So she was a really nice addition to the cast. And they're taking her with her when they go to the battlefield, and she becomes kind of like this mascot character, which is actually explained in terms of that it makes sense in the show, because apparently it's something that they do, where it's like they take these maidens to the battlefield with them to bring them good luck, which is a bit fucked up. But they don't take her to the actual battlefield. It's just like she's in the barracks and everything. But still, it's like, get the child out of the fucking war zone. What are you doing? So, yeah. Frederica's main drive is that she wants to destroy the ghost of her former protector, her knight, who got picked up and integrated into the Legion, just like Shin's brother. She can also see the present and past of people she talks to, which is a convenient way to make her know everything about what has happened to our main characters without having to do exposition dumps. So, that's good. And yeah, then, a lot of fighting happens. Shin and his friends are, of course, like these super capable soldiers that none of in the army of Jihad can basically reach. And that's why and that's the reason they also are a bit of outsiders there, even if they're not really being persecuted anymore, and they're not treated like a lower class like they were before. They're still kind of outsiders because, again, they fight so well and relentlessly. They scare the other cadets, kind of, because they're so adept and they're so cold as efficient killing machines. The only ones willing to spend some time with them are Frederica and Shin's new friend Eugene that he met in the library together with Eugene's sister, who of course dies in the third episode. That's the kind of story this is. I saw Eugene. He met him in the library. They talked to each other. Oh, this is a nice side story. Yeah, here's this guy. And then he appears later when they get to the recruitment camp, to the training camp. We're like, oh, yeah, that's true. Eugene, he's so fucking dead. He's so fucking dead. Yeah, even though it's harsh that Eugene dies, his death scene isn't hitting that hard, especially since we barely spent any time with him. Like, his death serves more of a grim reminder that nobody in the series is really safe, except for maybe Shin and Lena. But yeah, they do something with that later on. They rebuilt the robot Fido, which is like this transport robot that behaves like a giant dog, which I was very fond of. That had a great scene in the first season. Like, that one was one of the best scenes in the first season, when he kind of gets destroyed and remembers, and you see videos he recorded of all our characters. And so we basically get filled in on how their lives progressed in the Spearhead Squadron through the eyes of Fido, and that was really cool and really well done. So it was really happy when he returned to the crew and was rebuilt by Frederica and Grete, who is like their new commander, who is a very kind of opportunist who gambles the lives of the 86 to get her will and rise through the ranks, but she has a good reason and also a good heart. So yeah, she's also a cool addition in terms of character. And yeah, like I said, Shin and Frederica grow close, like because he fills in this big brother role that her knight did before him, like Kiria, the one that now Frederica is trying to find the ghost of and trying to kill him. But yeah, Kiria went insane when he thought that Frederica was killed by the Federacy during the rebellion. And he went just mad with rage, and that's the state he died in. So you can imagine his ghost is even more, I don't know, driven by a single-minded goal, probably, than his previous, his living version was. So yeah, and pretty much the final thing of the second season is that the Legion starts like this large-scale offensive, and that's then a lot of action shit happens left and right, and yeah, the action is good. Just like with the first season, I think the biggest problem with the action scenes is still that all the mechs look very same-ish. Most of them are silver or white, and all look like spiders. So when things get hectic, you don't always know who is fighting and who's on the verge of being killed. I mean, sometimes they cut to the face of the character who is currently doing the fighting, and sometimes they show Shin's emblem, the headless Undertaker skeleton thing. But still, it takes you out a bit. And of course, it makes sense for the designs to be very similar. I know that. These are mass-produced war machines. But I still like, I prefer these kind of signature machine designs over realism in these kind of shows. I mean, that's how Gundam usually does it, at least for, the main Gundam stuff, main Gundam mechs. Of course, you have mass-produced stuff like the Zaku and everything. But also, you get the key main character Gundams that all looks a bit differently, are color-coded in a certain way, have like these special attachments. And you get a bit of modifications on the Juggernauts in 86, but only ever so slightly. Like, I think two of the characters have, like, one Juggernaut has like a giant-ass anti-tank shell rifle, sniper rifle on its mounted, and another one has a bunch of rocket launchers mounted. But in the high-octane action, you don't really notice those things. So it's sometimes really hard to know which machine that is currently kicking ass belongs to which character if they don't, cut to the character's face or anything, or you don't hear their voice. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. They went for realism, but that makes it a bit more problematic, or that makes it a bit harder to follow the action. So I don't know how to feel about that. I would have preferred probably to have each of the characters maybe have a bit of color coding in there to make it easier, or I don't know, very different mech design.
I mean,
I
haven't watched this, but I guess from an in-universe practicality manufacturing standpoint, it stands to reason.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense, and of course, it also fits with the theme of the 86 being treated like cannon fodder, right? It's like, hey, we have these mass-produced war machines here that no one can control really, aside from them. And, in the first season especially, it's heavily emphasized that these are death machines because they have very, very little armor. They are so hard to control that it's very easy to kill yourself if you don't know what you're doing while controlling them. So it makes sense that, the Republic of Sun Magnolia didn't put much thought into actually making them safe and look different and be, I don't know, suited for each individual demand. So, yeah, sure. They mass-produced just the cheap shit out of those things, and then they put people in there and said, here, go to war, we don't care if you die. So yeah, like you said, in universes make total things. It makes total sense that these things look the way they do. It's just like, hey, okay, I could have done with a little bit less realism here, just in favor of being able to follow the action scenes easier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Those are good action scenes. You know, we have some cut frame CG in there as usual, where they try to give it the standard. Hey, this is the anime look or whatever. so the mechs move with a bit lower frame rate, which I'm not a fan of. But you know, aside from that, the action scenes are well directed. They look good. You know, there is a lot of heavy impact fighting there and a lot of big explosions and stuff like that. Good sound editing and everything. So the action scenes are good. Aside from the few things I mentioned, I didn't have really anything to complain. And my man Savano goes super hard.
Hey.
There's a reason the soundtrack was nominated for an anime award. Wouldn't have given it to it, but it's definitely one of his good ones. Yeah, it definitely works a lot for the action scenes. Also for the somber scenes, but definitely for the action scenes mostly. Yeah, so getting back to the characters for a final bit here. So Shin fights more and more suicidal, which we start to notice at this point. First, you think it's because he has lost his main drive in the form of his brother, right? Because that was the thing that was stringing him along in the first season, and now that's gone. And that's part of it. But the bigger reason seems to be him struggling with holding himself responsible for Eugene's death, which is kind of emphasized by Eugene's little sister sending Shin fucked up letters along the lines of, "Why did you kill my brother? Give him back."
Yo.
Wait, she is not the instigator of that, as we later learn, is one of his comrades in arms from the Jihad Federacy, who is just, you know, who was also friend of Eugene's and who was responsible, and then asked Eugene's sister to write those letters, which is really bad. That guy is an asshole. But also he also apologizes later on. He says, like, Jesus fuck, I was just so filled with rage. I'm sorry. At least that. But Shin could have still punched him in the fucking face. The thing is, that behavior that Shin now expresses, where he becomes more and more reckless and suicidal and just does these wild moves that almost get him killed, even more so than he did in the first season. He reminds Frederica of Kiria in that regard, which upsets her a lot. So they have a lot of conversations about that and between each other. And that's probably the core of this season. And I will get to that a bit more later. But that's what I noticed at this point in the show. It's like, hey, the best thing about the show is the talks between Frederica and Kiria, between Frederica and Shin. It's really good stuff. It's really well written, and it really like tries to stay away from standard, I don't know, cliche anime. I don't know, here is big brother, little sister talks, because mostly Frederica acts like the big sister. Because she's like, hey, I've seen this shit you're doing right now. I've seen it with Kiria, and I know where this leads. So please listen to me. What you're doing will destroy you, and that will destroy me because I've grown fond of you. I might be projecting on you because you look like my former big brother person, but still, please listen to me. And it's really good stuff. What I also noticed at this point is, and this production was maybe a bit troubled. Not in terms of quality, but they got 2 recap episodes in there, 18.5 and 21.5. And the last 2 episodes of this season only aired like 2 weeks ago. So already way into the next season. So, yeah, there was something up. I don't know what exactly. I'm glad they took their time, and it was definitely worth it, and I will get to that. But, yeah. It was a bit weird, like, so 2 recap episodes so close to each other, you know that something was up. Yeah, but at this point in the story, we do like a quick shift to Sun Magnolia again, just to show Lena's side of things. Like I said, she's not a lot in this second season, which is a bit of a bummer. But we see that the Legion has finally invaded Sun Magnolia and everything gets destroyed, which is really fun. In regards to funny, because everyone in the army of Sun Magnolia tries to cover this shit up, right? Because it's like this giant propaganda apparatus. It's like you see that less and less people are around. They're all still drunk. It's like, hey, everything is going well. But it's like, where are your commanding officers? Maybe more of them are getting killed. It's like nobody seems to notice, or they're all trying to get drunk to forget. But it's like they're still acting like the war is far away, and then suddenly it just is in front of their doorsteps and everything turns to hell. So yeah, that happens. That was kind of funny, like how the show portrays, like, hey, look how fucking indoctrinated all these assholes are, and they just don't see it coming. So it's a bit, I wouldn't say it's vindicating or anything, but it feels, considering that a lot of these people are just assholes the most of the time we see them on screen, a couple of exceptions aside, I guess, it's like ha ha ha. It's mostly like Nelson wave or stuff like that. So when you see that shit happening, but of course in the back of your head you also know that a lot of citizens are dying that don't maybe act like assholes and are just oblivious. So still, that's what happens, I guess, in war. And, comparing Sun Magnolia to the Federacy of Jihad might seem to be a better place, but ultimately the top brass in the military doesn't treat the lives of the 86 as equal either. When it comes to picking candidates for a suicide mission, they get chosen because they are fighting like monsters, as we established earlier, because they're just so fucking adept at it. And it's easier to justify sending the people who are still kind of outsiders and ostensibly love to fight to their likely deaths than soldiers of the Federacy who have families and are less skilled. Though definitely not all higher-ups are like that. Grete and Ernst, for example, who really care for the 86 and want them to focus on coming back alive above all else. That gets repeated a lot, because the 86 are usually, like, hey, war is all we know, really, so this is our life, and if we die, that's just like the way it is, and it's the way it's supposed to be, and everyone basically around them who cares for them is telling them, no, don't think like that. Please, you are not just tools. Come back. Keep a mindset that makes you believe that there could be a life after this. And yeah, it's that's really cool. There are a lot of cool characters in this show that are very, you think you have them pegged in a certain way, and you think they would go in one direction, and then they go in a different direction and all become very sympathetic. So it's very cool. And yeah, talking about Shin and Frederica again, like I said, their growing brother-sister relationship is definitely the best thing about this season. Like, she's the only one who gets through his thick skull when it comes to clinging to his pride, and the only way to live he is familiar with. Usually he deflects all attempts of pulling him or his comrades away from the battlefield with speeches about nobody having the right to pity him and to fight being their decision and their pride and their burden, yada, yada, yada. But there's this great scene where Frederica calls him out for treating her exactly like his brother treated him by disregarding her feelings. And Shin, who usually has this completely deadpan stoic expression, has just the smallest single twitch on his left eye when she mentions that he acts like his brother.
Oh no.
Which makes you realize that she definitely hit a nerve. And I love subtle shit like that. It's not even like a cut specifically to him. You just see his face. I think it's in a wide shot, and it's just like this very small twitch on his eye when she calls him out on that. And it's just, he does move another muscle, but it's just like, oh, she hit him. Oh, that was a KO. Like, she didn't pull any punches, and it really hit home. So, like I said, I mean, Frederica's voice can get a bit grating when she rambles on. Guess that's why we share a name. But she definitely is not wrong. So yeah, ultimately Shin is trying to justify his selfishness through the circumstances and duty and whatnot. But that is only a front. And there are definitely some other more personal factors playing into his motivations, like being afraid of even entertaining the idea that there is a different life for him out there, betraying the promise he made to his fallen comrades and their memories, and the trauma of his childhood caused by his brother almost killing him, and of course being scared of getting left behind by his friends who are more alive than he has been for a long time, at least in his own eyes. And yeah, the character writing in this show is surprisingly good, and I enjoyed pretty much all of the dialogue between at least Shin and Frederica, which I did not really expect to get from this show. I feel like some of the dialogue in, for example, Iron-Blooded Orphans felt kind of stilted and a bit weird, and I never got that feeling. I'm saying that right now because that's the show I would compare Act 6 the most to, because they share a lot of commonalities. But I feel like the writing in this, even though some of it is a lot heightened and very overdramatic, feels more natural. I feel like I get the feeling that these characters, the way they talk, that's characters actual talking. That's not scripts talking. And it's really cool. So, yeah. And then all our main characters, except for Shin, because he isn't quite there yet, want to go and visit the sea for the first time after the war. Now, where have I heard that before? My recent show that we might talk about in the not-too-distant future again. And what came after they went to that sea? Did things get better?
Oh, no, it got way worse. It got the worst it's ever been.
So, yeah, we'll see what the future for this show holds. But yeah, then we get to the penultimate episode. Oh, man, what a roller coaster ride. So, the series tried to troll me personally in this penultimate episode. And it did a really good job at it. Like, it worked me like a fucking fiddle. So Lena has this badass entry, and then the show does the thing, and you know the thing, John, you know the fucking thing, where it keeps Lena and Shin artificially apart. And they have like this, they're already in the first season, they have like this pseudo-romance going, and they're gonna end up together, there's gonna be a thing, right? And he feels like he wants to be with her, and she feels like she has a connection to him, and they're gonna meet on the battlefield, and it's gonna be grand, and they're gonna fall into each other's arms, and it's gonna be great. And she thinks he's dead, right? She thinks all the people from Spearhead Squadron died. Like, she's still keeping their names in a little. She wrote them down on little papers and drew faces of them and put them in a box, so she remembers their name always. Which, like I said, really great scene. But she thinks they're dead, so she has this badass entry in last moment when, Shin is, in his damaged juggernaut, he can't get up again, and there's legions from all sides, and then suddenly it rains artillery, and then Lena is there. She saved his ass, and it's fucking amazing. And then the show's like, maybe they shouldn't meet yet. Like, Shin knows it's her, but she doesn't know it's him, and he would just need to get out of his fucking mech, and he tries to open the hatch, but then an attack distracts him, and he doesn't do it. And I hate these contrived drama cocktease moments. I do, John.
I know.
Just let them be together, for fuck's sake. Like, we don't need to postpone this. Just do it now. Like, she thinks Shin and his comrades are dead. This is cool. How about making her life a bit better by showing her that they survived? And he tries to justify it, then she walks away and he doesn't get out of his mech. He doesn't talk to her and everything. And later he tries to justify it by saying, I want her to see a different view after the battlefield, so I can't tell her yet. I want her to see me in a different light, not in this war machine and everything. Which is fine and all, but it's also bullshit. Like, Shin, you try to open the hatch and talk to her, you lying motherfucker. What's with the noble grandstanding now? Fuck off. I was literally yelling at my screen, turn your radio back on, scream her name, open the hatch, get out of your fucking mech, you stupid piece of shit.
No, shut up. It's good for drama.
I was so angry and annoyed, John.
It's drama.
Yeah, I know. Contrived drama. I hate that. It's not natural. Drama. It's not well built. Or at least that's what it felt like. And, getting mad at cartoons is my favorite pastime. So anyway. it's still a good moment because her appearance and mission statement is the final push that leads to the complete turnaround of Shin's character, and it's directed super well, and the animation is fantastic. It really shows that they took their extra time to finish these last 2 episodes. It's great, but it could have been perfect. I get that the series wants to have its cake and eat it too, and it does in the final episode when Lena meets the whole gang and repeats all of their names with tears in her eyes, and that's a great scene too. But that feels more like an afterthought. And her appearance in the second to last episode was the chance for a perfect anime moment, and the show kind of squanders it by being cute about it, and it didn't have to. It's like, hey, they can't meet yet. We want to wait a bit. We want to be everything like a bit cuter, a bit nicer. And when she meets them, and like I said, it's a great scene when she meets all of the characters. Like, hey, she remembers all of their names and she can recount them, and everyone is laughing and everyone is happy. And it's just like this really nice, happy end that I never expected to get in this kind of show. At least for now, anyway. There are more light novels, I assume, so there are more of these characters will die eventually, probably. But for now, it's like this really nice, happy end, which, again, I didn't expect to get. But again, if they had, like, she doesn't know they're still alive. She rescues a random guy on the, random juggernaut on the battlefield from the Legion and has, like, this really cool moment where she doesn't know that he is the person that she cares about. But regardless, she tells him exactly what he needs to hear to finally find his new drive and his goal to finally live again. Like his reason to finally live again. To finally, after all this time, after he just wanted to die, finally believe that he deserves to live again. That he deserves to lead a life after the war and everything. And that he shouldn't have died when his brother tried to kill him and everything. Finally, he can let go of his guilt and all of that, and all the shit falls off his shoulders, and it's like this great fucking moment. And imagine then he would have just opened the fucking hatch and would have smiled, and she, holy shit, it's you shit, and then they fall into each other's arms. I know it would have been cheesy, but holy fucking shit, I would have cheered on the fucking couch. I would have jumped up and down. I would have been like a small school child when they see their favorite toy or shit like that. I would have just jumped up and down and be super happy about it. I would have been aside myself. I would have been so happy. And the show doesn't do that. The show doesn't do the perfect anime moment thing. So, yeah, like I said, it could have gone worse. They could have like postponed the meeting, her meeting everyone and shit like that to the next season whenever that is happening, or whenever then Shin is maybe trying to rescue her from danger and he can be the hero, whatever, which would have been really cliche. But they don't do that. But still, it's like you had a chance. It was so well done. It was so well directed and staged, and it just needed that last thing to be perfect, and they didn't do that. Oh well, anyway, I really enjoyed the show, and even if we don't get another season and it ends before the war does, I can absolutely live with this temporary happy end for our characters. God knows they deserve it. Also, gotta laugh at Lena's slimy superior in the army suddenly having a picture of 2 adopted 86 children on his desk after the Legion destroyed most of Sankt Magnolia and the remaining citizens got saved by the Federacy, which very much frowns on open racism. So that dipshit adapted rather quickly and got with the program, even if it's just for show and politics. Good for him, I guess. It's like, before we see his desk and it's just, a picture of his fucking white family with silver hair and white friends with silver hair, just fucking white people everywhere. And then after the war, they get rescued and taken over by this more liberal country. He's like, oh, well, now I have some brown children. Oh, it's funny. It's really funny. The show does some neat commentary on this kind of stuff, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. It being doing some snide commentary. Anyway, good show, good ending, even though it could have been perfect. Just saying. If there's more, I'll definitely watch. But if there isn't, that's also perfectly fine. Just like we said with when Mob Psycho season 2 wrapped up. If there's more, that's great. But also, if there isn't, great show. Doesn't need a continuation. So, got at least 2 or 3 very good character arcs and some decent action out of these 2 seasons. So yeah, watch that show, everyone. It's a really good action show. It's really good character drama. And yeah, I am pretty sure you will have a good time. I've seen some people say it's a bad show. I don't understand that. Like the guys from Anime World Order talked about the show and said, it's a bad show. It's like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Like, how is that a bad show? Like, it's based on a light novel, yes, but and it's one of those, war story shows. But it's really well done. It's really good character writing, and it doesn't do the hey, here are these innocent children who now have to die too much. Just I guess the appropriate amount for that kind of story, and not as much in the second season as it does in the first season. So, yeah. I enjoyed the show a lot. Sometimes weird, shoddy CG aside, but yeah, it's definitely worth a watch, and it's one of the better shows I've seen in recent times. So I can recommend it. So check it out if you get the chance. And yeah, that's it for 86 season 2. That went on longer than I wanted to, but yeah, I guess I had more to say about the show than I expected.
I was gonna say, wow.
Yeah, that turned into a full review on the way. I mean, I didn't take that many notes, but I remembered stuff that I wanted to talk about, and I hope I didn't just recite the plot, but I think I went more into the character aspect of thing and the key scenes that stuck out to me, so I think it's good. Yeah, John, but you have one thing left, right?
Yes, the vampire dies in no time. It's a show predicated on one joke. That's it. I mean... I guess there was something there to keep me watching all the way through to the end, just because I guess I hadn't filled my quota of stupid goof shows for the season. It really is a one-note show, but just I don't know. It's aggressively all right, but it has that really cool opening number that's really catchy.
Yes.
So it's got that going for it. I mean, as far as comedy shows go, you could do a lot worse. But you have to go into it with the understanding that you're getting exactly what's on the label. The vampire dies in no time.
And again and again.
It's several times over and over and over, turning into sand and dust and,
Listen, the most important question here is, does John get featured again?
Of course. John the Armadillo has his own episode.
Oh, perfect. Oh, wait. Well, okay. Then that's reason enough to watch the show, I guess. I mean, I didn't. But then again, me and comedy have a complicated relationship, so...
But yes, it's just a big stupid goof. It's Jun Fukuyama basically being himself.
That's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. And you got a cute little armadillo familiar that's there to just be, a cute little guy. Like I said, it is exactly what it says in the name of the show. You have the world's weakest, most pathetic vampire dying all the time, and it's played up for comedy. And there's, even though it is the same joke, there's slight variation. There's enough variation as it goes along to be like, yeah, okay, maybe, but I don't feel like it's definitely not the deepest, most intricate comedy you could watch. It's fine for what it is. If you want a quick chuckle, you could probably watch an episode or two and be like, okay, I got what I wanted, and jump right back out and live your life just the same.
Okay. I mean, that's fine either way, right? I mean,
yeah,
whatever you decide on.
I mean, I don't know how to go into more detail than that. So There you go.
That's it. I mean, some of those comedy shows are just that. The most important thing is, does it work for you? Does it work for you for every episode? If it does, you watch it and you enjoy it. So that's fine.
Right.
right? So, yeah, sure. I mean, it didn't work for me because, like you said, the joke was too one note. Though I enjoyed parts of that first episode a lot, and I was like, hey, this is funny, this is cool. I don't think I need to watch more of this because I got it. Right? So, yeah, but also if you get it and you're like, yeah, I can do with more of that, and that seems like a good time, just by all means, watch it. Yeah. That's what it's there for. It's there to give you laughs, it's there to give you a good time, and if you have that while watching it, then, that's reason enough to watch it. So, do that. And John, you did that, and apparently you were not regretting your life choices.
No, I mean, I didn't hate the show.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And I feel like that's
important.
That's enough.
Yes. And we've watched several shows we hated on this.
Oh, yeah.
So longer than we should have. But yeah, this time around, I think we got a bunch of shows that we at least liked. So, yeah. So, I guess then for this season, there's still one more thing to do. Best of the season. All right, best of the season. John, you take Sakugan, I take 86 season 2?
Yeah.
All right, that's it, people. That's a wrap on the 100. I mean, there's not really much more to say about this time, people. It's not like we have a bunch of shows to choose from. So I liked Sakugan. I think it's great. And I could have chosen that as well. I think I had some problems with it, at least in some aspects. But not that many, really. I think it was just about, hey, where's this going? This feels like first part of something, and we're not done with this yet. So maybe that was my biggest gripe. It's been a while. We've reviewed that right at the beginning of the fucking season, and then we took a giant-ass break. And just only did the anime award show in between. So, yeah. It's just like, hey, I like that show. I liked 86. 86 is more recent, and I really enjoyed the character interaction there as well. And I really liked what that show ended on, kinda, even though it was only great when it could have been perfect. But why am I to complain about a show that is great? So, hey, and if we can have our cake and eat it too, John, why would you choose Sakugan aside from it being the only big review we did this season?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been watching less and less lately, so,
Yeah.
It feels a little bad to say I'm picking this by default, but it's not a bad default. Sakugan was great.
Exactly.
And I really, really hope there's a second season on the way, man.
Yeah. That show, that's the thing. That show needs a second season. That's probably my only gripe with it. It's like, hey, that story has just begun. So it's not finished. And we need a second season for this. And yeah, let's go with that. Let's do that. Which is like if I remember correctly, the fucking full plot of that was like completely backloaded into the last 2 episodes of something.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so and isn't finished. So definitely that show needs a second season. And yeah, let's hope we'll get that. And then maybe I will also choose it as my best of the season. If I hadn't also watched the second season of 86, I would have chosen that. But that left a really good impression on me, and I enjoyed that quite immensely, which is fun saying considering the topic, the subject matter of that show. But still, good show, great characters. Again, Lena is one of my favorite characters in recent time, I would say, just in terms of what she does and how she does it, because she's such a fucking kick-ass. I didn't even mention one of the best scenes, and I want for people to experience that for themselves if they haven't seen the series yet. Like, every time that woman is on screen, it's gold. Anyway, so, yes, not the only reason to watch the show, but definitely one of the big ones. The other one being the character interactions between several of the characters, and this season especially between Shin and his kind of little sister Frederica. But yeah, good shows. So I guess we got those 2 as best of the season. That was easy enough. So we see you guys in a couple of weeks probably. I don't know when all of the premieres will have aired. I don't have that I don't
Yeah.
have my calendar open.
Haven't really figured that part out yet, but soon, TM.
Yes, it's all a bit scattershot, I think, because some series also start a little bit much later in the season than they usually do, and we'll see. We already know what we will return with because we know which shows we have watched and which shows we haven't watched and so on. So you will find out in at least a couple of weeks, and then we'll talk about the first one of those. Until then, stay maybe not too frosty, but fresh enough. And talk to you guys later.
So long, everyone.
And that is a wrap on the 126th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut!
Take care, everyone.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze!
The last train home becomes an endless nightmare.
And a flashy investigation leads to double trouble.